In one of the world's most famous tourist destinations, a dark secret swirls beneath the surface. Great whites.
It's just the ultimate ambush predator.
The teenager had a big chunk taken out of his thigh.
Invading the shores in ever-increasing numbers. No one knows why.
It's just perplexing. What are they doing here?
Now, two men brave the most mysterious shark location in the world.
I got eyes on.
He's right behind you!
To get their cameras inside the great white's vicious attack. To find an explanation for this invasion before it's too late. Port Stephens, Australia. A stretch of pristine coast with a frightening secret. Countless great white sharks hunting among humans. This tourist destination is 130 miles from Sydney, Australia's largest city. And it is teeming with great white sharks. With a record number of shark attacks across the country, this section of the Southern Ocean is the perfect place to study the mysterious invasion. A great white matrix. Great whites swimming so close to humans could have catastrophic results. Can this concentrated shark population tell us what conditions lead to deadly shark attacks? Before it's too late. To solve this mystery, two men will tempt fate and head deep into these dangerous waters. Paul de Gelder is an elite Australian Navy diver. Paul's life changed forever when he was attacked by a bull shark during a training exercise in Sydney Harbor. But that attack has only strengthened his curiosity to get back in the water, to understand more about these creatures.
It's maybe a lot more appreciative of the smaller things, because everything from here on out is just bonus time.
Paul is joined by veteran cameraman and white shark expert Andy Casagrande.
As a kid, I wasn't afraid that sharks are going to eat me. I was just fascinated that something like that could exist in our oceans. The fear is far outweighed by fascination.
Andy will build a special camera rig to get inside the bite of a great white shark, to see how they attack, and to find out what brings sharks so close to shore. First, they have to find the sharks.
315 Alpha Bravo Charlie, requesting flight following from Shark Week International to Nelson's Bay, over. We've jumped up into a helicopter. We're going to cruise along the beaches, looking for dark shapes, dark shadows, hopefully pick up a couple of sharks cruising along the coast. Paul's going to mark down the GPS coordinates. I'll get a couple of shots if I can, and then we'll head out on the boat, track them down, and jump in. Here we go. Paul, you see anything back there? Nothing yet, mate. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, a lot of people think great white sharks hang out in the deep ocean and they're far from land. They'll cruise right up into these shallow bays. There's lots of bait fish in there, lots of things for them to eat. So they're coastal predators and they hang out in the pelagic realm, but this place is definitely a hot spot. Just don't have to. Oh, that's right. Got one. I'll just give it a quickly. Yeah. He's about 200 meters offshore, about 150 out from the surf zone. Awesome. Let's get a GPS coordinate on that. We've only been flying for about 15 minutes and we already spotted our first great white shark. You can see the distinct black shadow just cruising right offshore.
How often do you see the great whites close to the surf clubs and close to the swimming areas?
Well, normally that's where you do see him always.
There's one. Got another one. It's down there. That's a big guy too. Look how they're girthed on him.
That's pretty sizable.
Great visibility from above. He's just sweeping his tail slowly across, not really going anywhere too fast, taking his time. You think, Andy, that looks like a decent-sized shark?
Yeah, it's at least 3 meters, maybe 3.5.
Well, now we've got those GPS coordinates marked off. Once we jump into the boat, we can head back up there and see if they're still hanging around the same area.
Yeah, definitely.
Australia isn't the only place experiencing a great white invasion. In beaches all over the world, you can find great white sharks prowling close to shore. These images were captured this year, just off Manhattan Beach, California. great whites swimming along unsuspecting beachgoers. A close encounter that happens all the time. But what makes this area so unique is there are up to 250 sharks in the surf at any one time. In this unique white shark habitat, warm and cold areas of ocean are mixed by a massive vortex of currents. This supercharges the marine food chain, making it the perfect pit stop for predators. With the white shark's location identified, Paul and Andy will dive with them to see if their bite will offer clues as to how these sharks are hunting.
Suppose everyone who lives around the coast has some sort of interest in them. I guess I'm kind of like everyone. Have a healthy respect when you're not in the water and an unhealthy fear of them when you are.
That's a good way to put it, actually.
But what is it that's bringing them here?
Possibly fish stocks, stingrays. Maybe they like all the cute Australian surfer girls. That's why I would be here.
This is one of Australia's prime surfing destinations. But most surfers have no idea what's beneath them. These sharks spend much of their time hunting near the breaking waves. Filming them will help Paul and Andy learn more about why the sharks are invading and how great whites attack.
What have we got there, mate?
Check it out, Paul. This is my tow cam system. The whole idea is I'm going to tow it behind the boat. These sharks are hunting fish here, it seems, so if we pull it behind the boat, we should get the white shark to come right up to it, chase it.
So we're going to be in point of view from the bait.
Yeah, exactly.
Unreal, let's do that.
He's right at the back of the boat here, so I'll chuck it in, get the skipper to pull the trigger. Oh, he's freaked out. He just took off. Oh, this is so cool.
But in the Southern Ocean, there is always another shark lurking.
So we just come across a group of surfers, suddenly all bolted out of the water. We've got a little white shark right here. We're going to try to throw some bait at him, see if we can keep him interested.
I got eyes on.
Hey, where's that pole cap?
Here he comes. Ah, look at that. Beautiful. How big do you reckon that is? 2.5? Are you going to get in?
Hell yeah.
Oh, you're a madman. I love it.
No one has filmed sharks here from in the water. Andy's about to do it cage-free in the surf.
It looks like this guy's about a 6-footer. Can't tell the sex, but definitely a juvenile white shark.
Even for Andy, this is unknown territory.
He's not going anywhere, so.
For safety, it's critical the shark is kept close to the boat.
Just keep an eye out for other sharks.
No worries.
So they're luring it in with fresh fish.
This is madness. I got a fish dangling out the back of the boat, baiting a great white shark, and Andy's prepping to get in the water.
If you see anything, I just want one person to talk to me. I don't want 15. Just, you, Matt, just talk to me.
But as soon as Andy slips in, the shark lures him away from the boat into the dangerous surf. The farther Andy is away from the boat, the more vulnerable he is.
I don't want to chase him. I'll keep swimming away, so we got to keep throwing the bait at him, try to bring him in.
Right on it. I'm blown away by the fact that we've got a great white closer to the boat than the guys in the water. Come in for a look, buddy.
With the great white between him and the safety of the boat, there's nowhere to go if the shark turns on Andy.
Here we go.
Go for it.
Yep.
Look at that.
What makes this encounter even more unusual is the shark's size. It's a juvenile, about 12 feet long. Juveniles are rarely caught on camera. It's one of the few times juvenile attacks have been filmed in this way. The shark's bite may tell them what these great whites are feeding on and how their prey changes as they mature. Andy may be about to find out the hard way. Andy is too far from the safety of the boat, and he's the only possible prey in sight. Coming up, Paul and Andy dive with the most aggressive great white populations on the planet to find out how they hunt. Attacks are on the rise in the great white infested waters of Australia. And Paul DeGelder and Andy Casagrande have just uncovered a stretch of ocean loaded with rarely seen juvenile great whites.
Come in for a look, buddy.
But now one of these young sharks is locked in on Andy, and he must quickly get out of the water.
Coming back around. Yes! Hey!
It's just an amazing, incredible animal. All my years of diving with the Navy, never seen a shark this big. Unless it was attached to my leg. That didn't end well for anyone.
He got the bird. He ate the...
Oh, the bird got away.
Fortunately for this mutton bird, this great white is an inexperienced hunter.
Oh.
So you can see these white sharks, they're juveniles, but they're going for these birds that are on the surface. White sharks in Cape Town will use penguins as target practice while they're learning to hunt seals. So these guys, although they're only primarily feeding on fish right now, they still got that instinct that they know someday they're going to hunt primarily visually, ambush things at the surface. Look, right here, check it out. These guys are learning to hunt here in the shallows.
The sharks are testing themselves. Breaking waves have always been considered a safe zone from dangerous sharks. The beaches here prove that theory wrong.
Wave, rogue shark.
In fact, this is one of the largest known juvenile great white hotspots in the world. In the nursery, these deadly predators are learning to kill.
Check this out, this little white shark is right here in the back line on the surf. We're on the boat getting thrown around and this guy's just perfectly hydrodynamic, cruising in the waves. And it's just perplexing, what are they doing here? There is some bits and pieces of prey, there's stingray, other small fish, these gutters that churn up the bait, but I mean, this guy right now, he's just surfing, he's just cruising.
The sharks here will help Paul and Andy understand how great white attacks change as the sharks mature. Everything they've filmed here confirms that this area is full of young white sharks who are growing and learning to hunt.
Oh, yeah. He was going for the GoPro when I pulled it out and he got the pull. But you can see that even though it's a little white shark, they have some serious teeth.
But the young sharks in the nursery close to shore are only part of the Matrix mystery. Paul and Andy head out to Broughton Island, 2 miles from Port Stevens, where larger prey is attracting larger sharks. Using a special waterproof prosthetic leg, Paul, who was nearly killed by a shark, is about to enter waters that are full of them for the first time.
There are smaller great whites in closer to the beach.
But they also get reports of big boys and big girls out here, so we may just find Chaz's dad.
So you're saying it's totally feasible that we could go down and there'd be a big great white shark down here?
Yeah, mate.
Jeez.
Come on, you've been
Is there a cage down there?
No, you don't need a cage. Let's give it a go.
As soon as they enter the depths, the sharks appear. These are sand tiger sharks, drawn here by these schools of fish, the same prey that attracts great whites. Their rows of razor-sharp teeth can rip through flesh if provoked. Despite the incredible damage a shark did to him, Paul faces the risks in these waters head-on. There's no sign of great whites yet, but the sand tigers are everywhere. And so is the prey. It's clear that larger great whites are learning to feed in relatively shallow areas like this.
Fish everywhere. I've done a lot of shark white times of my life, that was one of the most beautiful and just all-around fun dives I've ever done.
I can't believe how many fish were there, just plumes and clouds of them. You couldn't even see through it.
Yeah, there's definitely an abundance of food. No seals, but geez, little white sharks learn to hunt fish. They fatten up to get to the point where they need something bigger, which right now is us. So yeah, let's get out.
The teenager had a big chunk taken out of his thigh. He said he's broken.
But are only small white sharks attacking the surf zones? Or are those larger sharks set to invade shallow waters, with fatal results? Andy and Paul meet with fisheries professor Vic Petamores to find out more about the great white's bite. He's just found an unlucky dead white shark caught in a net. A rare opportunity to see why with great white sharks, size matters.
How old do you reckon she is? She's pretty
I think
small.
she's probably a year, maybe 2 years old.
What's fascinating to me is that, like, when these things are born, they're essentially born as these perfect scale models of adults. I mean, the adults get really girthy and bigger, but humans are born, we look like little alien monkeys, nothing like we look now, right? Well, some of us look like alien monkeys. But, I mean, seriously, it's just amazing that they're born ready to hunt and swim the second they come out.
Yeah, and the thing with sharks as well is that there's no one to teach them what to feed on.
Right.
But I think that's where the problem with people getting bitten. Very often, I'm finding that most of the people that are bitten by animals around about 2.5 meters in length, and that's about the size when fish aren't sufficient to keep it going, and it has to start eating larger things, and it sort of goes, possibly, hey, what's that thing? Is that edible? And
Because it hasn't been taught, so it's exploring.
It's exploring.
As they call it, exploratory bite.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
A shark's bite gets stronger with age. And as they mature, their massive bodies need massive amounts of fuel, driving them to search for larger prey. Are they also changing the way they hunt? Coming up, Paul and Andy must dive deeper with even bigger and more dangerous sharks and come face to face with one of the world's most aggressive great whites. In the waters of Southeast Australia, Paul and Andy have discovered one of the world's only known great white nurseries. Near the shore, a huge population of great whites is practicing its lethal hunting skills on small prey. And the young shark's curiosity brings them closer and closer to humans. But Paul and Andy want to find the moment when maturing great whites turn to larger prey. A horrifying moment Lisa Mundy knows all too well.
There's a bar over there they call the Moon Bar. And I've seen the dolphins using it a lot of times to kind of, I guess, channel all the fish in as a bit of a feeding area. I just done a bit of a jump across the wake and I was trying to show off a bit, so I stacked it. Well, I was swimming back to the board, so it was kind of like that arm was here.
What Lisa didn't realize was that a 15-foot great white was stalking beneath her.
And it came straight up from the bottom. It's just so fast. It was bang. I thought maybe I've been hit by a boat, so like it hit that hard. It was open right through. You could see the bone and everything. There's a couple of little holes out of my jawbone where its teeth dug in. They said you could actually see my artery there. So it had its top jaw around here. It came right through, and its bottom jaw must have slipped off because that's the movable jaw. So it slipped down off here, probably from the impact. My head's bounced back, and it's landed here. Obviously, just the corner of its mouth. So it kind of had my whole head, and arm, I was looking down its throat kind of thing. It took most of my biceps. You can see I've got a cute little bit left there. Very proud of that one. I think it's even a little bit bigger than a golf ball now. So I think I've dealt with the physicality of it pretty well. Just, yeah, the hardest thing is trying to work out how to move on with my life now that so much has to change because of the physical disabilities.
I know all about that.
Yeah, but you seem to cope, so there's hope for me yet.
Yeah, life goes on.
A 15-foot shark was unusually large to be in the nursery. Certainly big enough to provide a lethal attack. But Lisa survived. It bit her, but it wasn't powerful enough to hold on. To find out why the white shark released her, Paul and Andy turned to biologist Dr. Tony Farrar to analyze a shark's deadliest weapon, its jaws.
We wanted to look at two things: how the jaws are responding to stress and how hard these animals are biting, so bite force. If you're getting areas that are really lit up like a Christmas tree, well, those areas are likely to be the first things to break. So what we found is when we've looked at other animals, a lot of animals have a very, very narrow range. The difference is with sharks, with white sharks especially, is that white sharks can bite really, really hard over a much wider range.
Now, this is a subadult white shark, 2.5 meters.
This is a subadult white shark, right?
What about the juvenile?
Right. So what we're finding here is, this is a subadult white shark. It can maintain a really good, really strong bite force to bite into something big. But what happens to its jaws? Can its jaws actually deal with the stress of biting into something that big?
Well, you're the scientist to tell us.
And what we're finding is that it probably can't. In this animal, the jaws really just aren't strong enough. They're not reinforced enough to be able to hit something with their mouth really wide open.
Do you know what point in its life cycle that happens where it can start hitting large mammals at high speed?
So this animal is about 2.5 meters in length. So this is a subadult animal. This animal is right on the cusp of when it's able to take larger prey. So right at about 3 meters, white sharks can start taking large marine mammals.
The shark that attacked wakeboarder Lisa Mundy had just reached that point of 15 feet. It was big enough to thrive outside the nursery and to take a human life.
Police and ambulance officers rushed to the scene, but the man...
Following a record number of attacks on the other side of the country, these mature great whites have people terrified. Great whites of this size usually hunt in deeper waters. Is a stream of prey drawing them dangerously close to shore? To answer this question, Paul and Andy head over 1,000 miles from Port Stevens to the Neptune Islands. This area is a feeding ground for huge adult great whites, up to 18 feet. And shark attack survivor Paul de Gelder is about to face these one-ton giants for the first time.
It might not seem like much of a perfect holiday destination, but this is somewhere where I wanted to come for quite some time. I'm a little bit nervous and excited and apprehensive. I'm not scared. I don't really have any fear of them. It's a very healthy respect these days. Before I was attacked by the bull shark, I was definitely petrified of sharks. One of the things I want to discover is why people are so terrified of these things underwater. Is it because they look so terrifying in the movies?
He's now ready to enter the water with these monster whites. The cage is lowered into the water. And as Paul descends, he is immediately met by a full-size great white. Not the juveniles of the surf or the bull shark that took his arm and leg. This great white is a practiced killer who immediately locks in on Paul. He's now face to face with this giant predator. And it becomes clear how overwhelming great whites really are.
There's nothing like a great white shark on Earth.
Great whites of this size have jaws reinforced by new layers of mineralized cartilage to deliver bone-crushing attacks. To understand how mature shark bites differ from juveniles, Andy will enter the lair of some of the biggest great whites in the world and provoke an attack that will either result in scientific answers or horrific disaster. In their mission to discover why mature great whites are invading the Australian coast, Paul and Andy enter the great white matrix of the Southern Ocean. From a shark pup nursery in the surf to mature adults in the Neptune Islands, they're about to get in the water with some of the biggest and most dangerous great white sharks in the world.
You know, the Neptunes, compared to the rest of the white shark hotspots on the planet, is this really barren, like, flat island chain. It's a place where, like humans, there's really no reason for us to go there, aside from if we want to encounter great white sharks. It's definitely kind of a spooky place.
To understand how dangerous the fully grown sharks here are, and how big a threat they pose to humans, Paul and Andy need to study their behavior and bite in a way that's never been tried before.
Check it out. This is my underwater, super slow motion time slice rig, which will give me 20 different angles, all shooting in high speed, which will essentially allow me to capture a matrix shot of the great white shark in full attack mode. I've never really done this handheld out of the cage, and I'm a little concerned they're going to want to bite this thing, so hopefully I can crack off a few shots before they get a hold of it, download it, and see what happens. Should be pretty cool.
The tiny electrical frequencies of these cameras could drive the sharks into a flesh-ripping frenzy. But until Andy actually gets in the water, it's impossible to know how they'll respond. bait is set, and the shark is intrigued.
Imagine like running full speed across a football field, leaping with your mouth open and trying to catch like a grape.
It doesn't take long for this massive great white to show its hunting prowess, lunging for the kill. It's this behavior that Andy hopes his camera rig will capture.
It's interesting to consider that each of these sharks have a different personality. One of them just now on the attack stroke missed the bait and came up anyway, head outside the water and just gave us a big toothy smile, which is something that we haven't seen. They all are individuals, even though you just sort of think of sharks as this one type of beast, this scary, horrifying man-eater. They actually seem quite majestic and gentle.
Paul has to keep the bait bag close to the cage so Andy can get the shot. But it looks like he's invited trouble. This is a notoriously aggressive dominant male. Locals have nicknamed him Sidewinder. With one bite, Sidewinder crushes the cage and bait, putting Andy's safety in jeopardy. This first dive is a failure. 3 of the cameras are gone. Retrieving them with Sidewinder waiting would be suicide. Getting the rig back up and running is critical to understanding a great white attack.
I got the time slice right up, close to its face, but when it grabbed the tuna, thrashed around as they do, shaking its head side to side, tearing off bits of the tuna, and then smashed into the rig, knocked off 2 of these cameras.
Is that actually a bite mark there?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Wow.
This one I thought was going to last a bit longer than the first dive, but, yeah.
The great whites of Australia are divided into east and west coast populations. The sharks only stay in the Neptunes briefly. They follow the sea lions to Australia's western shores, which is why shark attacks in Western Australia are on the rise, but attacks on the east coast are not.
The funny thing about the sharks is they have this phenomenal power, but they don't use it every time. Then all of a sudden one will come out of absolutely nowhere like a jumbo jet and just smash through. It's very, very intimidating. You can feel the thrusting of their bodies past you, and when they give a flick of that tail, it's like a pulse of water hitting you.
It's just the ultimate ambush predator. Watching him try and use different strategies to take the bait, but every one of them involved coming out of absolutely nowhere. Makes you wonder what would happen if that cage wasn't there, though.
Coming up, Paul and Andy want to see if their cameras will reveal just how a full-grown great white attacks its prey. The 2,000-pound Sidewinder is about to answer that question. A giant great white called Sidewinder is terrorizing Andy Casagrande. Andy wants to get in the shark cage, but Sidewinder has other ideas.
Check it out right here. One of the most amazing things about great white sharks is they have an ability to not only see and focus underwater, but also they spy hop and check out their surroundings topside. This guy's coming up, taking a look at us. They're amazing. Where'd he go? That was rad. Seriously, some people think white sharks will come up to a seal colony, spy hop, look around just to assess how many seals there are, what there is to eat. No other shark, as far as we know, can do that.
That's amazing. Just don't follow him. No, I'm definitely not following you.
Some are like the ones out of the movie Jaws. They want to fight everything. They want to smash into the cage. They want to mouth on. Those are sharks you wouldn't want to get out and swim with.
Sidewinder is definitely one of those. Andy decides to risk it, and Sidewinder heads right for him. They need to lure Sidewinder away from Andy. They chum the water to lure the shark in, then distract him with bait. Sidewinder occupied, Andy will dive deeper to see if a view from the ocean floor will yield a different side of the great white's deadly bite. Down here, if a shark breaks into the cage, there is no escape.
When I'm down there on the bottom, and you see all these fish and these pinnacles, and then out of the gloom you see this dark shadow, and this prehistoric predator swims right up to you. Unless you have like some suicidal death wish, you should not go swimming.
Despite the dangers, Andy opens the cage to get a better shot. Here, sight, smell, and tiny electrical fields affect the sharks, meaning the cameras can provoke them. The shark goes in for the camera.
I'm filming this shark. It's coming, it's coming, it's cool. I'm getting this awesome shot. But then I realized, holy, the thing is, it's still coming, it's still coming. It wasn't like trying to get into the cage, but it kind of was. He just sort of pulled back and swam off, but, you know, then I looked down into the gloom again and thought, man, this is like a true shark paradise.
It's the perfect place to find out how fully grown great whites bite their prey.
People think that because we're showing white sharks hunting and looking so impressive that we're trying to demonize them. We're not. If you're going to showcase the world's greatest rugby player, you're not going to show him sitting on a couch watching television and having tea. You're going to show him blitzing down the field, smashing a bunch of other dudes, and then scoring a touchdown.
Splashed everyone on the boat. Amazing.
The crew sets the bait out, bringing the great white's vicious attack close to the cage. Andy's rig captures the anatomy of the shark's deadly bite from every angle.
I think we finally got it.
It looked like some amazing footage from up here.
Yeah, quite a few times the shark came straight at the camera. I was a bit concerned about losing more cameras, so I'd get the shot back in a little, but this is the one that gave me a good show. Kept coming right up to the cage.
Observe the difference. First, a bite like that of an adolescent shark. The lower jaw is poised to bite, but the upper jaw remains stationary. An attack like this could possibly be survived. Compare it with an adult great white's deadly strike. Full-blown vertical attack. Jaws reach maximum width, pinning prey to the surface with no escape. A horizontal strike. Here, the bite isn't just from the teeth and jaws. It's from the entire body. Teeth are fully grown and spread apart for maximum damage. When a great white puts it all together, death is guaranteed.
There we go.
Gums flare. Jaws deliver a crushing bite force. The throat draws like a giant vacuum. Unlike juveniles, these giants have no weakness. The weak jaws of juveniles restrict the killing capacity of young sharks. As adults, their weapons are reinforced and the weakness disappears. But different sharks and the different ways they attack make their threat to humans a complex issue.
People like to think of the ocean as our backyard swimming pool, but it is the wild. The ocean is a wild place.
They're dangerous animals, for sure. You can never forget that sharks are dangerous, but they're not malicious. They don't have vendettas. People are so much more dangerous than sharks are.
The Great White Matrix and other places like it prove sharks are often closer than we think. Whether we choose to share the ocean with them is up to us.